they said Princess Zara was perfect. Golden roofs, golden palaces, golden life. People bowed when she passed. Servants lowered their eyes. No one dared speak against her, not because they loved her, but because they feared her. She mocked the poor, fined widows for resting in her shade, and once said, "Even palace dogs are worth more than beggars." In Kalana, her beauty was famous. Her mercy was not. Then one hot afternoon, an old woman limped to the palace gate with an empty bowl and shaking hands. Zara laughed in her face. That was the moment everything broke. Because the beggar was no beggar at all. She was the river spirit, the watcher of kings and the judge of proud hearts. In front of the entire court, thunder rolled without rain. The bowl filled with light. And the spirit spoke one sentence that tore a royal life in half. "If you think the poor are less than animals, then live as one." The princess screamed. The court stepped back. And where a proud human had stood, there trembled a small black cat, coat glossy like wet river stone, long braided hair with colorful beads. Thrown out like trash. Hunted in her own city. Powerless for the first time in her life. That was only the beginning. Because that same night, under the palace walls, the cursed cat heard something no one else was meant to hear, a plan to poison the king at dawn. Now listen closely. The only witness to treason cannot speak. The only person who might believe her is Bina, a maid she used to insult. And if she fails, Kalana will wake to a dead king, and a new ruler named Rugo, who never cared if the poor starved. This is the story of pride, punishment, and a mercy that does not feel like mercy at all. This is the story of Princess Zara. And this is the night the river decided to teach a lesson. Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. If you love high-stakes stories filled with magic, mystery, and big twists, don't just watch, join the journey. Like the video, share it with someone who loves powerful tales, and hit subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is extra special, you won't want to miss it. Kalana was a shining kingdom by a wide blue river. The roofs of the palace were gold. The streets were lined with clay lamps at night. By day, the market smelled of pepper soup, fried plantain, roasted fish, and sweet mango. Boats moved along the river canals like slow birds. People wore bright wrappers, indigo, cream, and mango gold. Children ran with kites made from palm leaves. Drums spoke messages from hill to hill. In the tallest palace on the river ridge lived Princess Zara. She was very beautiful. Her skin was warm brown like fine cocoa. Her jaw was sharp and strong. A thin scar ran softly on her chin like a small line of moonlight. Her long braids were threaded with colorful beads. When she looked at you, you could see a tiny blue ring around her dark eyes, like water when the sun touches it. She wore a flowing turquoise silk gown with gold sun patterns and a braided leather belt. A light shoulder cape sat on her shoulder with a jade brooch. A thin gold ring on a cord rested at her wrist. On her feet were beaded leather sandals. When she walked, people stared. She looked like the morning star. People loved to look at her. But they feared her tongue. Zara liked to show power. She made servants kneel so low that their foreheads touched the floor. When a tired farmer came to the gate to ask for help with grain, she would laugh and say, "If your hands are empty, try catching the wind." When the guards brought a poor widow to ask for food, Zara would say, "Not today. Come back when the sky falls." The king of Kalana loved his daughter. He was tall and calm, with a soft gray beard and wise eyes. He wore a royal deep blue agbada with gold embroidery and carried a carved staff. He would smile when he saw Zara. "My bright son," he called her. The queen, gentle and quiet, worried about Zara's heart. "Beauty without kindness is like a drum without sound," the queen said. "It looks fine, but it helps no one." Zara did not listen. She liked the sound of her own steps on the palace floor. Click. 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 She liked the way people moved out of her way. One hot afternoon, the court gathered in the great hall. Sunlight fell through high windows in bright lines. Indigo banners hung from clay pillars. The air smelled like palm oil and dust. The doors opened. A very old woman crawled in. Her clothes were torn. Her back was bent like a broken bow. Her hands shook. She moved on her knees with great effort. "Please," she whispered. "Food, only a small piece." Zara lifted her chin. She laughed in front of everyone. "Look at this," she said. "She is dirty, useless, and not even worth a dog's bone. Get her out." The court went silent. Some servants looked at the floor. A drummer stopped his hands in midair. The old woman slowly raised her head. Her eyes were not dull. They were deep. Very deep. Like a river at night. She pushed one palm to the ground and stood up. Her bent back became straight. Her torn cloth became flowing blue cloth that moved like water though no wind blew. Her feet left wet prints on the dry floor. A low sound rolled across the hall. The gold sun patterns on Zara's dress seemed to dim. The river smell filled the air. The old woman was no ordinary beggar. She spoke, and her voice sounded like a waterfall far away and also close to your ear. "I walked your markets. I watched your gates. I listened to your words," she said. "I am the river spirit who feeds Kalana with water. I give fish to your nets and soft soil to your farms. Today I came to ask for kindness. You gave me laughter and shame." Zara's mouth was still smiling, but her eyes were not. For a moment, she looked like a child who had been caught stealing palm fruit. Then her pride returned. She rolled her shoulders. "River or rain, I do not care," she said, waving her hand. "If animals are greater than people, then perhaps animals should rule." The spirit's eyes shone bright blue. "If animals are worth more than your people," she said, "then live as one." Wind rushed through the hall though the doors were closed. The banners whipped. Lamps flickered out. Light flashed like lightning. Zara opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. Her body shrank. Her fingers turned to paws. Her shoulder cape slid off like a drop of rain. In a heartbeat, where the princess had stood, a small black cat crouched, its coat glossy like a wet river stone. The cat's face still carried a whisper of the princess, the faint chin scar, the tiny blue ring around the eyes, the grace in the neck. Someone screamed. A guard dropped his spear. The king jumped to his feet. "Zara," he cried. The cat tried to answer, but only a small sound came, "Msrrp." She looked around wildly. The beads that had been in her hair were now tiny colored beads tangled at the ends of her thin braids that somehow stayed along her feline face. A delicate gold circlet shaped like waves rested between her upright ears. At her back ankle, a simple ring tied with twine marked who she was. The river spirit looked at the king with sad eyes. "A proud heart is heavy. Let her learn how heavy," she said. Water shimmered in the air. Then she was gone. Only a damp print of her feet remained on the floor, fading like breath on glass. The hall rang with fear and whispers. The captain of the guards stepped forward. He did not understand magic. He only saw a small black creature in the royal hall. "Out!" he shouted. 2 guards kicked at the cat. She stumbled. The world felt too big. Boots banged on the floor. Spears clanked. Someone opened the gate. Wind and dust rushed in. The guards pushed her with their feet, not knowing. The gold sun on Zara's dress lay like a puddle on the floor, empty. The gate slammed shut. Outside, the heat hit her like fire. The stone steps were rough on her soft paws. Far below, the river moved as if nothing had happened. The cat that had been Princess Zara crouched in the sun and shook. She finally stood and walked down the steps, each step smaller than she had ever taken in her life. Kalana did not know her anymore. The streets were not smooth like the palace floors. They were muddy. The market ground stuck to her paws. Flies buzzed. Smoke from cooking fires made her eyes water. Children ran and laughed. Dogs barked at anything that moved. Zara tried to walk proudly, but a stone hit near her tail. A boy shouted, "Shoo, black cat." Another child threw a clump of wet clay. It hit her side with a smack. She ran behind a pot and hid. Her chest beat fast. She wanted to shout, "I am your princess." But only a thin meow came. The children ran off to play. She waited until her breathing slowed. Hunger came like a small hand twisting her stomach. The smell of fish and pepper soup filled the air. She followed the smell to a stall. A woman was frying tiny fish in oil that popped and hissed. Zara stepped closer. The woman waved a cloth. "Go away," she said, not looking. "No cats near my pan." Zara backed up. She watched a man buy a bowl of jollof rice. He ate it slowly. He hummed. She could have cried. She had never felt hunger like this. She walked on. In a narrow alley, she saw a man in a uniform, the palace soldier, take a bag of grain from a thin farmer. "Tax," the soldier said. "For the king." The farmer's eyes filled with tears. "Please," he said. "My children," the soldier pushed him. The farmer fell. His wife cried, holding a baby. Zara's heart squeezed. She had laughed at farmers like this before. It had been a game. Now it felt like a knife. She walked on. Near the back of the palace wall she heard a whip crack. "Faster," a harsh voice shouted. A young servant dropped a basket. Small yams rolled into the dust. "Please, forgive me," the servant said. The overseer raised the whip again. Zara crouched. She wanted to leap at him, but she was small and he was big. She could only look. She felt very, very cold inside. It began to rain. The drops started soft, then hard. People ran to cover. Zara ran, too. She slipped under a broken cart. The wood smelled like old water. The rain made tiny rivers on the ground. Cold touched her spine. She curled into a ball. Her gold circlet pressed against the wood. Her twine ring at her back ankle scratched the ground. Her teeth chattered a little. She had never been cold like this. In the palace, warm sheets and thick carpets had always waited for her. Is this how the people feel, she thought. All the time. Dogs came, noses low. Their eyes were yellow in the dark. They smelled her. They growled. She hissed and arched her tail. She scratched at the nearest nose. The dog yelped and jumped back. Another dog pushed in. She slipped deeper under the cart, heart banging. The dogs barked and barked. A man came and threw a stone at them. "Go," he shouted. The dogs ran away, grumbling. Zara trembled. She licked her wet fur. It tasted like dust and fear. Night fell. The rain slowed. The city grew quiet, then loud, then quiet again. Somewhere a drum spoke, doom, doom. She began to count the beats. It made her feel less alone. At last she slept. In her sleep she was not a cat. She was a girl walking along the river, holding out her hands to the water. But the water did not know her. It moved away. She called the river spirit's name. No sound came out. A fish with blue eyes looked at her and swam by. She woke before dawn, cold and stiff. Her belly hurt with hunger. She stood and shook herself. Droplets flew. She took one slow breath. She lifted one paw and placed it in the dust. Then another. She set her jaw. "I will not break," she told herself, though no words left her mouth. As the sky lightened, a smell floated from the palace kitchens: smoke, yam, onion, pepper. She could not stop her feet. They carried her to the kitchen wall. The wall had a little crack near the bottom where a brick had broken long ago. She could see light inside. She could hear voices. "More water," said a woman. "Yes, Auntie," said a girl. The girl's voice was bright but careful. Zara peered through the crack. The girl was small and quick, with a single neat braid down her back and a woven bracelet on her wrist. She knew this girl. Bina. Once, Zara had made Bina clean the floor twice because a leaf had blown in after the work was done. The memory burned her cheeks even though she had a cat's face. Bina turned and looked at the crack, as if she felt eyes on her. Zara held still, breath stopped. Bina stared a moment, then went back to work. Zara backed away. A plan began to form like a small fire in her mind. She could not speak. But she could see. And she could move quietly. If she could learn something important, something only the king must hear, maybe someone would listen to her. Maybe the river spirit would see. She spent the day hiding under a tree, watching, and trying to keep warm. She washed her face with her paw, trying to feel clean. When people walked by, she kept low. By evening, the sky turned purple and gold. Lamps lit the streets. The palace glowed like a rich shell. Zara crept back to the wall. She would try again to get inside. There must be a way. She did not know that the way would find her first. Night came fully. The moon slid out from behind a cloud and turned the river silver. Zara stayed low by the kitchen yard and watched the shadows. The guards changed shifts. Boots passed. Voices drifted. Cold tonight, one said. I, said another. My bones can feel it. A small window near the ground had a broken piece of wood. Zara slid through. Inside, the floor was cool. The room smelled like garlic, yam, oil, and smoke. Pots sat on low stoves. The fire had gone to red coals. No one was there. She moved like a shadow across the tiles. Her claws clicked softly. Click, click. She winced at the sound and went even slower. Outside the kitchen, a corridor ran toward the inner rooms. The walls were white. Lamps in niches made small circles of yellow light. Between the lamps were dark spaces. Zara stayed in the dark. She heard whispers. Not kitchen talk. Not guard talk. These whispers were careful and fast, like snakes. She followed them. Two men stood near a lattice window that looked down into the throne hall. One was tall with a narrow face. The other was short with a soft voice. Their cloaks were dark. Their hands were tight. At dawn, the soft voice said, "When the king drinks his morning water." The cupbearer, the tall man asked. "He is ready," the soft voice said. "He will pour, then look away. We will say a prayer for the king's health. The prayer will hide the cough." "And the princess," the tall one said. The soft voice laughed without joy. "Who cares? She is only a cat now." Zara's heart froze. At dawn. Morning water. The king, her father, would die before the sun stood tall. The tall man pulled out a sealed scroll. Blue wax shone near the knot. He tapped it. "When it is done," he said, "the council will sign this. The throne will be safe, with us." The short man nodded. No more trouble from the old laws. No more gifts to lazy people. The river will serve us, not the other way. Zara crouched, ears flat. Rage came hot and bright. She wanted to leap at their faces. But she was small, and they were many. She pressed herself to the floor and breathed slowly. The men moved away, feet soft. Their words faded. Zara slid closer. She stood on her back legs and put her paws on the low sill. She could see a small table against the wall. On it lay the blue wax scroll. A lamp flickered beside it. The scroll's edge had a tiny hairline crack in the wax seal. Maybe someone had opened it before, then pressed it closed again. Zara's whiskers trembled. If I can take that, she thought, I can show the king. I can show Bina. Someone will believe. She waited until the corridor was clear. Then she jumped onto the table. The lamp's flame danced. The heat licked her nose. She sneezed softly. She put her teeth on the cord around the scroll and pulled. It did not move. She pulled harder. It slid an inch. She tugged again. It fell off the table with a small thud. She froze. No one came. She took the cord in her mouth and dragged the scroll across the floor. It was heavy. Her jaw ached. She stopped, panted, and started again. Little by little, she pulled it toward the kitchen door. Boots sounded. Voices. "Did you hear something?" a guard asked. Zara pulled the scroll into the shadow behind a big water pot. The guard's sandals stopped 3 steps away. "Nothing," another said. "Maybe a rat." The sandals moved on. Zara rested. Her heart beat like drums. She pressed her cheek to the cool scroll. Almost there, she told herself. She dragged the scroll through the kitchen and back out the small window to the yard. The night air felt like silk. But she had no time to enjoy it. She had to find someone who would listen. Not the guards, they had kicked her. Not the soldiers, they took grain from the poor. Bina. The girl with the neat braid and kind eyes. Bina swept floors and lit lamps and watched carefully. Maybe Bina would see. Zara carried the scroll in her mouth along the shadow of the wall. When she reached the servants' quarters, she stared at the doors. How to call Bina? She dropped the scroll gently. She scraped her paw in the dust. She remembered letters. Her paw was clumsy, but her mind was clear. She drew slowly, H-E-L-P. Then she drew K-I-N-G. The letters were shaky but real. A door opened. A sleepy girl stepped out with a lamp. Bina. She saw the cat. She saw the dust letters. She saw the scroll. She looked into the cat's eyes and saw the tiny blue ring. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Zara," she whispered, unbelieving. "Princess, is that you?" The cat blinked. Bina's face changed from fear to courage. She bent and picked up the scroll. "Come," she said. "We must be quick." They slipped along the wall to a side hall that led toward the throne room. Bina walked softly. Zara trotted beside her. The lamp shook a little in Bina's hand. Her woven bracelet brushed the lamp's handle. The flame made a small halo around them. "Who would do this?" Bina whispered. "Who would hurt the king?" Zara remembered the soft voice and the tall man. She remembered how they wanted the river to serve them, not the people. She hissed softly. Bina nodded as if she understood the sound. "We will show the king," she said. "We will show everyone." They turned a corner and stopped. 2 guards stood there, spears crossing. "Where are you going?" one asked. He saw the scroll. "What is that?" Bina's face stayed calm. "Orders from the kitchen," she said. "A list for the morning meal." The guard snorted. "At this hour?" He reached out. "Give it here." Bina stepped back. "I cannot," she said. "The queen asked for it." The guard's eyes narrowed. He grabbed for the scroll. Bina tried to hold on. The paper slipped. The lamp wobbled. The flame stretched and almost went out. Zara sprang forward and scratched the guard's hand. He shouted and pulled back. "A bad luck cat," he yelled. "Catch it." Another guard blew a whistle. Feet. The sound cut the air like a knife. Doors opened. More boots. More spears. Bina looked left and right. There was nowhere to run. She held the scroll to her chest. Her eyes shone. "Listen to me," she said, voice clear. "There is danger for the king. Let us pass." The guards laughed. "A maid and a street cat," one said. "You talk too much." He pulled the scroll from her hands. The seal flashed in the lamplight. The guard did not see the tiny crack. Zara's fur rose. She leapt again, claws out. She tore a line across the guard's cheek. He screamed. "Cage it," someone shouted. A net dropped from above. It wrapped around Zara. She fought, twisting, biting, rolling. The net pulled tight. A man with a narrow face stepped from the shadows, the tall man from the whispers. Chancellor Rugo. His eyes were like a knife. A small silver fishbone pin held his cloak at the shoulder. He looked at the netted cat with a cold smile. "Bad omen," he said softly. "We do not need omens in the throne hall." He looked at Bina. "And maids who sneak about at night. We do not need them either." Bina did not bend. She lifted her chin like a small queen. "I serve truth," she said. "And I serve the king." Rugo's smile thinned. He snapped his fingers. "Bring the cage," he said. "And bring a blade." Guards moved like a dark tide. The whistle sounded again. Feet. The sound ran down the corridor and out into the night. Zara twisted inside the net. Her paws found nothing. Her heart beat so hard she felt it in her ears. She looked at Bina. Bina looked back. In Bina's eyes Zara saw fear, but also light. Bina pressed her palm to the dust at her feet and drew a small blue circle with the lamp's soot. She whispered, "River, see us." The cage came. The door clanged open. They pushed the net inside. The door shut with a heavy click. Zara stared at the bars. She pressed her face to the wood. She could smell the old sweat of animals that had been inside before. She could taste the iron in the nail heads. "Dawn is close," Rugo said. He touched the blue wax seal, then slid the scroll into his sleeve. "We will finish our plans soon." He raised his hand. A guard lifted a short sword. The blade caught the lamplight. It looked like a thin piece of day in the middle of night. Bina took one step forward. "Stop," she cried. The sword lifted higher. Zara closed her eyes. And the palace drums began to speak. Doom, doom, doom. The palace drum spoke from the tower above the gate. Doom, 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 slow and heavy like the sound of a big heart. The blade paused in the guard's hand. The echo shook dust from the rafters. Lamps trembled. Even Chancellor Rugo looked up for a short breath. Bina did not waste that breath. "Look at me," she shouted, her voice bright and brave. "My name is Bina. I am a maid of this house. I bring truth." Some guards laughed, but others did not. The drums always meant something serious. They beat when a prince was born, when a boat sank, when strong wind was coming, when the river rose too high, or when a message had to be heard by all. "Who told you to speak?" Rugo said. He kept his face smooth, but his eyes were sharp. The silver fishbone pin on his shoulder caught the light like a thin smile. "No one," Bina said. "But the river sees. And the king must hear." Rugo waved a hand. "Take her away." Two guards stepped forward. Bina held her lamp high so the light touched every face. "If you fear truth," she said, "then fear the river too. Because the river spirit walked our hall today." A murmur ran through the men like wine through dry leaves. They had heard the shock in the court. Some had seen the old beggar change to the river spirit. Others had heard the story already and were still trying to swallow it. Rugo snapped, "Do not listen to kitchen talk." The blade. The sword lifted again. Zara's chest pressed hard against the cage bars. Her tail was stiff. She looked straight at Bina. "Help." Her eyes said it. Bina set her lamp down very slowly on the floor. Her hands shook, but she did not hide them. She reached into the pocket of her wrapper and pulled out a small chalk stick. She knelt on the polished stone and drew a circle. In the circle she wrote with neat strokes, "Help King." Then she drew a mark like a wave. She had learned this mark as a child in the village by the water. Elders drew it on the ground when they swore to speak clean words. A young guard near the back swallowed hard. My mother draws that mark when we go fishing, he whispered. We do not lie inside the wave. Rugo heard him. His mouth tightened. You will listen to me, not to children's tricks, he said. He turned to Bina. You can write any word you like. It changes nothing. Bina stood. Then listen with your eyes. She looked at Zara. Princess, she said softly, if you can still think, show them. Zara drew in a breath. She pushed her right paw through the cage bars and stretched as far as she could until her claws scraped the floor. The stone was smooth, but near the cage door the dust of many feet had settled. She scratched slowly. It was not pretty, but it was clear, HELP. Then she scratched FATHER. Her paw shook at the last letter. A hush fell. Even the sword tip dropped an inch. It is a trick, Rugo said. But his voice did not sound as strong as before. Some cats scratch by chance. No, the young guard said. He took a step forward. That is writing. My little sister writes like that when she is tired. Another guard looked from the letters to the cat's face. Look at her eyes, he said. Do you see the tiny blue ring? I saw the princess once at a feast. Her eyes looked like water with sunlight. Rugo stiffened. Enough, he said. He raised his hand again. And then another voice came, deep and calm. What is this noise in my hall? The king of Kalana had entered. He stood tall, wrapped in his deep blue agbada. The gold embroidery shone like morning lines. His carved staff touched the floor, thok, and the sound carried to the corners of the room. Beside him walked the queen, quiet and watchful, her hands hidden in her shawl. All the guards bent their heads. Only Rugo kept his chin close to level. Your Majesty, Rugo said quickly, already moving to control the story. A pest has been found in the hall. A black cat, a bad sign. We were clearing it when this maid started making trouble. Bina took one step forward. Her voice shook, but she did not let it break. My king, she said, please, look at the cage. Please, look at the floor. Please, look at the seal I saw a moment ago in the chancellor's sleeve. Rugo's fingers slid, almost without thought, toward his sleeve. The king's eyes followed the small move. The queen's eyes did too. They were slow eyes, but they missed little. What seal? The king asked. A scroll, Bina said. Blue wax. There is a crack in the wax. I think it holds a plan to hurt you at dawn. Rugo laughed, not loudly. A kitchen girl making stories, he said. There is no scroll. Then let us all see your sleeves, the queen said, gentle as rain. For a breath Rugo did not move. A thin line of sweat appeared at his temple and hid under the silver streak of his hair. Then he smiled, wide and showy, like a man opening his hand to say he had nothing to hide. He spread his arms. His cloak opened. A curled paper slid and tapped the floor, tick, just the smallest sound. Everyone heard it. Blue wax shone. The hall held its breath. The king lifted his staff by an inch. Bring it, he said. A guard hurried, picked up the scroll, and carried it to the king with two hands, like carrying a small sleeping bird. The king looked at the wax. He turned the seal under the lamp. There, very thin, was a hairline crack. Who has a knife? He asked. Many knives were ready. But the queen moved first with a small silver blade she kept for fruit. She pressed the crack and lifted the wax cleanly so the seal shape still showed. She unrolled the paper. Words filled the scroll. Names. Times. A list of steps. A small drawing of the water cup and the morning path from the king's room to the balcony where he liked to breathe the air of dawn. No one spoke. The king read to the end. His face did not change. He looked up at Rugo. What is this? He asked, not loud and not soft. Rugo's mind raced like a trapped rat. A test, he said. A trap for spies. I wrote false plans to draw out a traitor. See. They found it and tried to use it to shame me. This maid. This cat. They are used by someone. Bina shook her head. No, my king, she said. Her hand lifted. The river knows. I stood by the kitchen wall, and I heard. Rugo cut across her. She makes tales, he said. But I can end this quickly. He pointed to the cage. Bad signs must be cut away. Let us do our duty and then punish those who try to twist the court. He nodded to the guard with the blade. The guard lifted the sword again, but his hands were slower now. Stop, the queen said. Let us ask the river. All eyes turned to her. She walked to the center of the hall and knelt. A small boy servant brought a black stone bowl filled with clear water. This bowl stayed in the palace for oaths. It came from the riverbed and held the smell of wet earth. The queen set it on the floor. The river spirit came today, she said. We will put our hands to the water and speak. If we lie, let the water mark us blue. If we tell truth, let it leave us clean. Some guards nodded. They had seen village trials like this. Rugo smiled with only his mouth. Very well, he said. Let us begin with the maid. She lies. The water will show it. The queen looked at the king. He gave a small nod. Let the maid speak first, he said. Bina came forward. She did not kneel like a beggar. She knelt like a person who knows her knees are strong. She put her fingers in the water. It was cool. She spoke slowly so each word stood on its own feet. I am Bina. I work in the kitchen and sweep the halls. I found the princess turned into a black cat with blue-ringed eyes. She carried this scroll. I heard men plan to poison you at dawn. I am afraid, but I will speak truth. The water stayed clear. No mark rose on her skin. A guard whispered, clean as river after rain. The queen nodded. Now the chancellor. Rugo stepped forward. He placed his fingers on the water as if the bowl might bite. He smiled to show he was not afraid. I am Rugo, he said. I am loyal to the king. The scroll is a test. I planned no harm. Those who say so are enemies. He lifted his hand. Blue welts bloomed across his fingers like ink flowers. The hall gasped. One guard dropped his spear. Bina's hand flew to her mouth. Zara pressed her face to the cage bars and felt a small sound break from her throat, a sound of fierce hope. Rugo's mask slipped. For a flash his eyes showed the cold of a deep hole. Then the mask was back. A trick, he said quickly. Old village magic. Anyone can paint a bowl. It means nothing. The king did not move. Captain, he said. The captain of the guards stepped forward. Take Chancellor Rugo and the men close to him, the king said, and hold them in the iron room until the court meets at sunrise. Rugo took one step back. Two guards grabbed his arms. He hissed, not like a cat but like a snake that had bitten itself. You think this ends me, he whispered toward the king. Rivers change their beds. So do courts. The king looked at him with sad eyes. Rivers change, yes, he said. But water always runs to truth. Rugo was pulled away. He did not fight like a wild man. He walked like a man measuring the floor for later. The silver fishbone pin flashed once and was gone. The hall breathed out. But the cage still waited. The sword still hung. The drums still beat, slow and low. The king turned to Bina. Child, he said, you have done well. He turned to the cage. His voice trembled for the first time that night. And you, he said, if you are my daughter, forgive your foolish father who did not see your pride growing like a weed under his own window. Zara pressed her paws again to the bars. Tears filled her eyes. They looked like small river stones. She bowed her head. The queen's voice was a soft thread. Let us ask the river one more thing, she said. If the spirit is near, let her show mercy, or teach more, if more is needed. She lifted her hands over the bowl. The lamps flickered. The air cooled. A smell of wet clay rose from the floor. Tiny ripples moved in the water though no wind stirred the hall. The river spirit stood beside the queen. She looked as she had looked before, flowing blue cloth like water, gentle bare feet leaving prints that faded, eyes the color of deep river. Yet her face now held a sad smile, like someone who loves a child who fell and learned. She looked at the cage. She looked at the letters scratched by a small paw. She looked at Bina, whose braid hung straight and whose hands still shook. She looked at the king and queen. Then she looked at every guard and every servant, one by one, as if she knew all their names even if they had never spoken together. Many hearts beat in this hall, she said. Some beat proud. Some beat afraid. Some beat true. She stepped closer to the cage. Zara held still. Every part of her wanted to leap and press herself against that blue cloth like a child against a mother's wrap. But she did not move. She only looked up with eyes that said, I am sorry. I am learning. I will do better. The spirit nodded a little, as if she heard the words that could not be spoken. Mercy is water, she said. It takes the shape of the cup that receives it. Tonight I will pour, she paused. But first I will ask. She turned to Zara. You were kicked by guards, chased by dogs, stoned by children, left in rain. What do you ask for them? The hall waited. Bina leaned forward. The king held his breath. Zara looked toward the guards who had kicked her. They were not the worst men in Kalana. They were men who feared their work more than they loved their neighbor. They had laughed when others laughed. They had followed the hard voice. She thought of the farmer whose grain had been taken, of the servant who had been whipped, of the children who had thrown stones and then run. She lowered her head. Her small paw touched the dust again. She scratched, slowly, carefully, mercy. Then she scratched forgive. Then she scratched notchief, not the leaders, not the ones who planned. Mercy for the small ones who followed because they were weak or afraid. A soft sound went around the hall, like a long breath after hard work. Bina's eyes filled. Oh, Zara, she whispered. The river spirit nodded. Water hears, she said. She lifted one hand. The cage door opened with a clean click. A strand of light poured from the air like a thin waterfall and wrapped the small black cat. The light was not hot and not cold. It felt like standing knee-deep in the river at noon. It felt like clean cloth after rain. It felt like a song that had waited many years and was finally sung. Zara's body stretched. Paws became hands. Fur became skin. Long braids fell down her shoulders, bright with beads. The faint scar on her chin showed like a soft dash. The gold circlet rested for a last moment on her hair and then slid down into her waiting palm. Her turquoise silk gown returned, the gold suns bright again. The braided leather belt settled at her waist. The slim gold ring on a cord lay against her wrist, warm. She stood, shaking, not from fear now but from something bigger that had to pass through her whole body to get out, grief and thanks together. She looked very beautiful, but the beauty was different. It was like a lamp turned down so the flame could last the night. She fell to her knees. Forgive me, she said, voice breaking. Father. Mother. Bina. People of Kalana. I was proud. I forgot that every belly feels hunger the same. I forgot that every back can ache. I forgot that every person has a face the river knows. Please forgive me. Let me be small so I can learn to be good. Her tears dripped onto the stone like little clear seeds. The river spirit's blue cloth moved as if a wind from under the earth touched it. You lost your crown, she said softly. You lost your home. Yet you risked your life for others. Now you are worthy. She turned to the king. Rule with ears, not only eyes, she said. Listen to the little drum as well as the big one. She turned to the guards. Stand like trees by the water, she said. strong, and giving shade. She turned to Bina. "You are a small boat with a brave sail," she said. "The kingdom needs boats like you." Bina lowered her head, smiling through tears. The spirit looked one last time at Zara. "You will still feel the river in your eyes," she said. "When pride rises again, and it will knock, because pride is stubborn, you will see a thin blue ring and remember. Do not hate yourself when you forget. Remember and return." Light folded like cloth. The spirit was gone. Only a faint coolness stayed, like the air after rain. The drums in the tower changed their beat, do-do-do-do, fast and bright, the sign that danger had passed for now. The king set his staff aside and lifted Zara to her feet. He drew her into his arms. "My child," he said, his voice small and large at the same time. "My bright son. Let us learn warmth without burning." Zara held him and the queen together. "Yes," she said. "Yes." But Bina did not let the hall fall into soft talk. She wiped her face and pointed at the far door. "We must still seize the men who worked with Rugo," she said. "They will try to run while we cry." The king laughed a little, surprised and proud. "You are right," he said. He turned to the captain. "Close the gates. Search the inner rooms. No one leaves the palace before sunrise." The guards moved fast. Boots hit stone. Locks clanked. Orders flew. "You 2, north corridor. You 3, river stairs. Watch the balcony." Zara stood straight. She picked up the cage door that lay open and set it aside. She walked to Bina. Then she did something she had never done before in the palace halls. She bowed, low, from her waist, so her braided hair brushed her knee. "Bina," she said, "you saved me. You saved the king. You saved Kalana." Bina shook her head. "The river saved us," she said. "I only spoke." "Speaking truth is not small," Zara said. "Sometimes it is the biggest work of all." The queen smiled softly. "Let us finish this night," she said. "And then, my child, we will begin a new morning." The lamp flames burned steady. The blue in Zara's eyes caught the light, then softened. Outside, the first thin line of dawn began to draw itself across the river. The palace had 1 hour to turn its face from danger to peace. They would need all of it. The hour before sunrise is a strange one. The air is cool and smells of wet leaves. The birds try a few notes but do not sing fully yet. The river looks flat, like a long piece of blue cloth smoothed by a careful hand. In the city, some fires go out and other fires are lit. Some people sleep with mouths open and others rise in the dark to pray. In the palace, feet hurried. The captain sent men to the iron room, to the wine store, to the small stair that led to the old tower, and to the hidden door behind the carved wall. Yes, there was a hidden door, many old houses have one. Bina walked beside Zara, guiding her through servant paths that were faster than the wide royal halls. The king and queen moved with them, not above them. At the kitchen yard, a frightened man crouched near the water jars. He held a small packet in his shaking hand. "Please," he whispered when he saw the guards. "Please." He was the cupbearer. His eyes were swollen from crying. "Stand," the captain said. The man stood and opened his hand. Inside lay a small folded leaf tied with thin fiber. "They told me to drop this in the king's water," he said. "They said they would hurt my family if I refused. I did not put it in. I could not. I hid it here. Please forgive me." Zara looked at his hand. She could see bits of white powder inside the leaf. She felt sick, but not with hate. With sorrow. "What are their names?" the captain asked. The men told them, 2 advisors close to Rugo, 1 scribe who liked extra money more than clean sleep, and an old guard who had lost his house in gambling and now owed coin to bad men near the wharf. The captain nodded. "Take him to the side room," he said to 2 guards. "Give him water and keep him there safe until sunrise. His family will be brought in." They will be safe too. The man fell to his knees and touched his forehead to the ground 3 times. "Thank you," he said, his voice breaking like thin ice under a foot. Zara touched his shoulder. "You chose not to poison," she said. "That choice is not small. Be brave a little longer." They moved on. At the scribe's desk, they found papers half-burned in a clay pan. The queen's fingers were quick. She fished out one page before the fire ate it. "Here," she said. The page showed a list of coins and a mark next to each, names hidden, but numbers large. "Payments," the queen said. "We will follow these later." Near the river stairs, a guard tried to slip away with a sack. When the captain called, he ran. Zara did not call for someone else. She lifted her dress just enough to run herself, beads clicking softly. Bina ran too, her braid bouncing. The running guard looked back and laughed, thinking 2 women could not catch him. He did not see the low water jar on his path. He tripped. The sack tore. Silver coins spilled like fish scales. Guards piled on him. The running was over. "Greed makes feet heavy," Bina puffed, hands on knees. Zara laughed, first time that night, a small, surprised laugh. "And truth puts wings on ankles," she said. They carried the men away. The sky grew paler. In the iron room, Rugo sat on a bench. His hands were marked with the blue welts of the river bowl, but he held them like they were nothing but paint. When the king entered, Rugo stood. "Majesty," he said, voice smooth again. "You are quick to shame an old servant. I served your father. I advise you only for strength." "You advise me to drink death," the king said. Rugo shrugged. "Kings die. Kingdoms move on. Why should Kalana be different? The river changes its bed. The river runs where it must," the king said. "And it carries stones where they belong." Zara stepped forward. She held the cage key in her hand. She had kept it after the door opened, because she would not forget. She looked at Rugo's eyes. They did not look away. "You called me a bad sign," she said. "But the sign was for me, not from me. I was proud. I have seen now. You," she looked at his fishbone pin. "You love power more than people. That love is a dry love. It does not feed anyone." Rugo smiled. "A dry love keeps a man safe on a stormy river," he said. "Soft hearts drown." Zara did not answer with more talk. She turned to the captain. "Keep him here until the court meets," she said. "Bring his papers. Bring the men he named and the men the cupbearer named. Bring the bowl." The captain nodded. They left the iron room. By the time they returned to the throne hall, the first birds were fully awake. Their song came through the high windows like bright beads on a string. Lamps were still lit, but their light was thin now compared to the early day. People gathered, guards, servants, the drummers, some market elders who had come at the drum call, and a few mothers who had been up since before dawn and had heard the word carried on the wind by other mothers. News moves quickly when it needs to. The king stood before them with his staff. The queen stood at his side. Zara stood near Bina, not in front of her. The bowl of river water sat between them all. The king spoke. "A shadow fell on our house," he said. "But we did not walk into it. We listened. We looked. We asked the river. We will do so again now." They brought in the men named by the cupbearer and the papers from the scribe's room. One by one, the men touched the water and spoke. One by one, blue marks rose for those who lied. A few told truth and were set aside to go home. A few wept and begged for mercy, saying they had been forced. The king listened to each. The queen watched faces as if reading a long story. Zara and Bina passed cups of water to tired mouths. They did not sit on high chairs. They stood with the people. When Rugo's turn came, the hall grew very quiet. He walked to the bowl and set his fingers in the water like a man pressing a snake's head to the ground. "I am loyal," he said again. I wrote a test. These names mean nothing. This plan means nothing. I am clean. He lifted his hand. The blue marks did not just bloom on his fingers. They ran up his wrists like rivers on a map. The people cried out. Even Rugo's mouth fell open for a moment, because the river does not make small signs for big lies. Take him, the king said. He will face full judgment with the council and the elders from the market and the river villages. There will be no secret room for this. The guards took Rugo away. He did not laugh now. The danger for the king's life had passed. But something else had to happen before the morning could truly be called new. Zara walked to the center of the hall. She turned to the people, soldiers who had taken grain and now looked at the floor, servants with sore backs, mothers with thin arms, elders with river lines in their faces, children who stood on toes to see. She lifted her hands. I was the princess who mocked the poor, she said. I stood tall and told others to bend. I forgot that the river feeds the big boat and the small boat the same. I forgot that the pot is heavy for any person who carries it. I forgot that a heart is not a drum to beat others down. And because I forgot, I was made small. I was turned into a cat. I felt stones hit me. I felt rain on my bones. I ate nothing and slept on wood. I saw a farmer's grain taken. I saw a servant whipped. I became afraid like a child lost at the market. People listened. No one coughed. Even the birds paused. I do not want to be that old Zara anymore, she said. I want to be new. I want to walk with you, not over you. I want to feed with my own hands, not only command with my mouth. She turned to Bina. Forgive me, she said. I laughed at you. You were my teacher tonight. Bina's eyes were wet. I forgive you, she said. Let us work. The king set his staff on the floor. From this morning, he said, we will count grain better. We will open the store to mothers who have little. We will stop the whip. We will judge with the bowl when we must. We will ask the river to help us see. The people breathed out. Some cried softly. Some smiled. A child clapped 3 times because joy is simple in small hands. Zara looked at the throne. She did not go to sit on it. She walked past it to the side door. Come, she said to Bina. Come with me. We have work to do. They went to the kitchen. They washed their hands. They lifted pots. They sliced yam. They stirred pepper soup. Zara's hands were soft, and they felt the heat quickly. She hissed a little when soup splashed, and then she laughed because she sounded like a cat again. Bina laughed too. The other cook stared for a heartbeat and then moved aside to make space, and then moved back to show her the right way to hold the ladle. They filled bowls. They went to the gate. The sun rose fully, and gold touched the river like fire on water. Zara and Bina stood at the open gate and gave bowls to the first line of people, old men, bent women, children with big eyes, a young father who looked as thin as his stick. Eat, Zara said. She did not say it like a princess giving a gift. She said it like a sister bringing food to the table. Eat. A guard came, helmet in his hands, eyes on the ground. Princess, he said. Forgive me. I pushed you last night. I did not see. I did not think. I am sorry. Zara looked at him. She saw his fear and shame. She also saw his tired face and the scar on his chin that looked like a small cut from an old fight for the city. She set a bowl in his hands. Eat, she said. Then stand at the gate and help us keep order kindly. That will be your apology. He nodded hard and took the bowl like it was a book of wise words. The day moved. Zara walked the streets with no shoes so her feet could learn the shape of the city. She picked up a child who had fallen. She listened to an old woman talk about her 2 sons who had gone to the far farm and had not returned yet. She watched a basket maker weave, and the woman taught her how to tuck the thin leaf under and over and under again. She wiped a baby's nose with the edge of a cloth and did not make a face. She stood by the river and thanked the spirit with small words that were not fancy but were true. The queen watched from a small distance, her eyes soft. The king spoke with elders in the market, asking simple questions and listening to long answers. At noon, Bina and Zara returned to the palace yard to carry more bowls. Their arms were tired, but their faces were bright. As they passed the shade of a neem tree, Bina touched Zara's elbow. "Look," Bina whispered. A small black cat stood near the tree, tail arched, eyes bright. It looked at Zara. For a moment, Zara felt the world slow. The cat's face did not look like hers, but she felt as if she were looking into a mirror that remembered her fear and her strength at the same time. The cat blinked. Then it turned and slipped away into the market like a thin river in tall grass. Zara smiled. "May all cats of Kalana eat well," she said. She laughed at herself. "And may all princesses." As the sun went down, the drums beat a soft pattern for peace. The air smelled of smoke and sweet fruit. The river carried boat songs. Children chased each other through long shadows. Zara stood in the palace doorway, hair long and beaded, dressed simple now. She had changed from silk to a plain cream wrap with an indigo sash because work had stained the silk, and she did not mind. The thin blue ring around her eyes caught the last light. It looked like two little pieces of river that she carried everywhere. Bina stood beside her, leaning into her shoulder as friends do when they are tired and happy. "Tomorrow," Zara said, "we will go to the market early. We will count grain with the women who sell it. We will open the old storehouse with the cracked seal. We will see the old rules that hurt people and make them new. We will speak to the children who threw stones and ask why their hands were empty enough to throw. We will set up a place where people can come and talk and not be afraid." Bina nodded. "Tomorrow," she said. "And the next day. And the next." Zara looked up at the sky. The first star blinked. She remembered the spirit's words, "When pride rises again, you will see the ring and remember. Do not hate yourself when you forget. Remember and return." She touched the gold ring on the cord at her wrist. It felt warm, like a small sun. She made a quiet promise to it, and to the river, and to her people. "I will return," she whispered. "Again and again, until kindness is the first thing I pick up each morning." The night grew deeper. From far away came the thud of oars and a song that sounded like a smile. Inside the palace, the queen lit the small lamp she lit every evening and set it on the window for travelers to see. The king wrote a short list of changes for the council and then put down his pen to walk outside and breathe the same air his people breathed. And in the shadow of the old tower, behind a wall where ivy grew, a pair of eyes watched and then slid away. The eyes belonged to someone who had carried silver for Rugo and now carried fear. He would run to the lower town and whisper to men with hard hands and hunger for power. The story was not finished. The river would test Kalana again. Zara did not know all of that yet. She only knew that her feet were sore, her arms were tired, and her heart was awake in a new way. It beat with the drums, not above them. It beat with the river, not against it. She smiled at Bina. "Come," she said. "Let us eat the last bowl together." They sat on the palace steps, two girls with soup, sharing one spoon, laughing when they dripped and wiping the drops with their fingers. The moon lifted like a silver calabash. The river moved on, soft and sure. Moral of the story: pride makes the heart hard, but kindness makes it strong. When we listen, say sorry, and help others, even in small ways, the whole community becomes brighter. True power is not in the crown on your head but in the care in your hands. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe so more people can learn with us. Drop a comment. What lesson did you learn today? See you in the next story.